Oh yeah, little David Bowie. Welcome to 041, episode 041, Business Broken to Smokin Podcast. We got a little David Bowie teed up to set the stage. Now I'm going to take liberty and talk over David Bowie, which is probably the most uncool rock and roll thing in the world to do. But
you're going to do it anyway.
We'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
So pick this song to tee up the theme of our podcast today.
Which is what?
Episode 041, which is adaptability. The ability to adjust is a two-edged sword. There's good and bad adapting.
Is it kind of like pivoting?
Yes. The inability to pivot. So, David Bowie's helping us out with that. I have never been much of a fan of David Bowie. Now, we're going to get all kind of rock and roll hate mail from this. But I don't know, I just never... I mean, I get why people like David Bowie. I've just never grown fond of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Maybe I haven't given him much of a chance, but anyway. So we're talking about adaptability. And I've noticed that I've noticed there's two sides to adaptability. We can adjust and change, and then become adapted. Like, okay, now we're there. We did it. We changed. We adapted. We adjusted, and then we kind of get this new normal. And there's, I think, two sides to this as a ability of ours as humans. You know, we have this remarkable ability to adapt, to become used to different things, and that is not a bad thing, and it also is a bad thing, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is kind of the two sides. Now, I have a blog that is about to go live. This particular episode, or this particular blog I wrote about adaptability, so you can find that on our website, LodestoneTrueNorth.com.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
By the way, if you need help taking your business from broken to smoking, well, call us. We have a very cool broken to smoking cigar afternoon thing coming up. When is that? Do you remember? June something? June 2nd? I think it's June 2nd, 2023.
We've got
Go to the website.
Yeah, we've got several events coming up.
So. We're doing it every quarter. Broken to smoking cigar afternoon. And then we also have every quarter we're doing a very cool Broken to Smokin business workshop. So if that's you, business owner, business operator, and you need a little bit of help, give us a call. Come by to one of our things. So there's this idea of adapting. First of all, I want to set this up.
Okay.
The visionary dilemma. So I'm working on this book, which is coming right along. And it is about the visionary dilemma. The dilemma is there's these three problems, three hurdles, three pitfalls, three truths, three dilemmas, if you will. And the first, and visionaries, by the way, are kind of like, what? Like, really? Like, there's these three dilemmas? They're not thinking about it. They're not realizing what they are. And so the first one is that people don't know, they don't realize that they need a vision, that visions for our lives, our careers, our health, or whatever, like, we don't realize that we need a vision often, that we're kind of wired for vision, that we, in order to be healthy, have to have, or we respond well to this driving reason to exist, and some of this is supported by all kinds of stuff, but specifically, a good read around this is Daniel Pink's book, Drive, in which he talks about the self-determination theory, which is a big study in the 70s. Some psychologist folks did this study, and they kind of proved out that, yes, indeed, there are these motivators, these drivers in humans. And they're not, it's not money. Now, money as survival is a driver, but a baseline driver. Really what is more of a foundational kind of health driver are these three things, which is meaning, mastery, and autonomy. Meaning being, a big reason to live or a rich reason to live. And we could insert right there vision. Now also vision, we could say mastery, which is getting better and better and better and becoming the best or something like that. And then autonomy is, the ability to kind of own your own results, or to say, these are mine. Look at, I get to bask in or take ownership in these personal results, from this job or from the work that these clients are achieving, or whatever. There's a sense of, hey, this is mine. Like you can kind of go home at night going, I did something really, really that I own, that I put my hands to and get the results from. So those are the three basic drivers. And all that to kind of make the case of this first dilemma, the first part of the dilemma, which is people need an overarching vision, but they don't know that they need one. So visionaries are dealing with people that need a vision but don't know that they need a vision. And so that's the first dilemma, is if some visionaries going along going, hey, everybody, here's this great reason to exist, this great place we're going. And folks are like, well, can I just get back to work? Or, the weekend's coming, or, whatever. And they don't know that they need something bigger to live for. Now, Mr. or Mrs. Visionary may have a lousy vision, and the people may be like, shut up, I got something better to live for than your dumb job or something, which is fine. But this is the perverse part of the dilemma. Visionaries don't realize that truth. All right, second dilemma is that visions are invisible pictures. And we say visions, I'm saying, somebody kind of going, hey, we have this great reason to exist as an organization, and we're going to all pitch in and work really hard and go somewhere really fantastic, and it's going to be good for everybody and good for our clients and good for the economy and good for all our employees and vendors, etc. Well, as that visionary talks about that, they have a picture in their head, but it's not coming out. It's not coming through. And visions are invisible pictures, which is an oxymoron. That's it's a what do you call it? Paradox. That's what I'm looking for. Right?
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, where we're trying to use a few words to get this image in our head into other people's heads. And visionaries are really bad generally at employing multiple tools and tricks and hacks and processes to get everybody to see stuff. And that's partly what the book's about, is, well, here's some other ways you can get people to see some stuff. So that's the second part of the dilemma. And the third part of the dilemma, which is what this little podcast episode is about, and the blog post, etc., is that visions disrupt normal. They disrupt normalcy. Once somebody realizes they need a vision, secondly, somebody sees successfully the vision, third is like, oh, but that means I got to change my life around, or the thing that's been comfortable and cozy for me is going to change. Like, whoa, that's scary. That's disrupting. That's uncomfortable. That's inconvenient. That's not how I've been doing it all my life or all my career or in this job or in the last year or whatever. And so the reason it's a dilemma is because visionaries cast this vision of, hey, isn't this going to be great with this place we're going? And they forget that everybody that's listening goes, well, you mean we got to move? We got to, that sounds great, but I'd rather watch Netflix, or I'd rather just be chill, or, mediocre, or whatever. And not
sometimes it doesn't sound great though.
Well, that's right. Sometimes it does. It's like, whoa, you're freaking me out right now. Yeah.
I have a design for a t-shirt for that. Your vision freaks me out.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And so adaptability, we get used to a thing.
Yeah.
And in that Now, we can get used to good things, and that's the point, is that adaptability has a two edges to it. We can get used to healthy things, and then we are on the good side of adaptability, where we get used to things like a better budget, or a better health rhythm, and we could say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym today. Why? Well, because I always do. All right. Well, that's an example of adapting to a good rhythm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy that. Why? Well, because it'll disrupt my budget, and I'm comfortable with my budget. I'm not going to blow that money or go out to eat because I'm used to the health of my budget. I'm not going to drink like that. Why? Well, it's just really inconvenient. I prefer stability and clarity, and I've gotten used to being up above the noise and drama and trauma, maybe, quote unquote, of drinking or of other kind of bad habits. So that's on the positive side. Adaptability. We can adjust. We as humans get used to things being good, and then we start to make real big decisions. We're like, no, yes, around, hey, don't disrupt the fact that we're in a great place right here. But on the negative side, we also are really good at adapting to other things. And that's where I think this becomes very obnoxious. We get used to things being the way they should not be. And as I was thinking about this, one of the actual core values I see that are true, what am I trying to say here? That are the true driving force in an organization is don't rock the boat. Don't mess with the way it's always been. And that's generally a core value, not spoken core. Well, I think not official or
Unspoken
overt.
or
It's often spoken, but it's not like put up on the wall. Like don't screw with, like, your vision freaks me out. That would be, people talk about it, but they don't go, no, that's in our handbook, or on the wall of our 3 core values or 5 core values or whatever. But I think it's an actually true, often, core value. Don't rock the boat. So you look at, especially institutions and nonprofits can be like this sometimes. Governmental organizations, schools and so forth, they have this like deep, old religious organizations. They have this, in some ways, the tradition and the history is really beautiful, but if it's colored and marred and stupid, then you're stuck with it. You can't change it because people are like, whoa, you're messing with my code here. It's like, well, it's a dumb code. And it's kind of hard as a visionary. Visionaries have this job, if you will, to go and find the things that need to change and shake them up. And it makes everybody mad and it makes everybody uncomfortable. And often the visionary's confused. So they're like, what? You want to stay here? Like, you want to stay in this place? And that's why it's a dilemma here, is because they're shocked. They, as visionaries, often are, they just don't realize how content folks are. And that's part of what being a visionary is you become discontent with the status quo or the current truth of how things are. And you begin to pine or long or, desire this other truth, this new truth. And in order to do that, you almost gotta go around breaking things, and you're breaking things that are, quote, sacred cows. Branding, logos, location. I'm talking about a business here. So things like titles, the way where people's desks and stuff are, even working from home. Folks have gotten really used to that. And it's almost like they can't remember the way it was. And this is the dark side of adaptability. Perhaps. Now, if working from home is great for everybody, great. Okay. For a particular person, it's not great for everybody. But if it's good for you, okay, great. You had this disruption that came along that you didn't ask for. Nobody asked for this disruption of COVID and whatever in the 2021. But it did disrupt everybody, and that's a great point of adaptability. It's I did some writing about this, which is there's a lot of things that we can't change that we adapt to. Various losses. Like, for instance, somebody dies, or a disability, or some health reality, or economics, or
Right.
politics. Politics is a great example. When an election happens, everybody freaks out, and not everybody. Some people
50%.
go jubilant, and other people are like, "Dang it, it's the end."
Pretty much 50.
I'm moving to Canada, or I don't know, Panama, or depending on what side of the
Our next song.
there you go. Depending on what side of the aisle you're on, or what your particular angle, bent, etc. is. And then after a year or two, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Everybody settles down.
Within.
Yeah.
We all get used to it. And typically, only a tithe of what we thought would happen happens. And it doesn't happen the way we thought it would, And maybe arguably it's worse or better, who knows, but we get used to it. That's the point, is that things come down the pipe that we can't do anything about, and we just kind of go, all right, let's get back to normal. Let's find normal and settle into it. I would say that in some ways that's been the case with having a child with significant disabilities. At first you're like, the world is over. Things are, this is tragic, and it is. And there's elements to all that. And there's elements to kind of getting used to things that are nefarious, or sad. I don't want to ever gloss over my son's disabilities. And sometimes you can, and you can get used to that. But at the same time, the disruption for us as a family, the first, 10 years of his life, and he's 20, what is he, 20?
He just had a birthday.
He's going to be 23.
Yeah. His birthday's in August, right?
August, yeah, I'll be 23.
Wow, I feel like that was just a couple weeks ago.
Yes, yeah.
It wasn't.
Times are flying, buddy.
Holy cow.
So but we're, first 10 years of his 12 years, we all were very disrupted in my family. And now it's like, okay, this is how it's going to be. And in some ways, like, well, isn't this how it's always been? No. But I forget, you get used to it. Your ability to kind of see things morphs and changes. There's a really interesting miniseries. I don't remember what it's called.
I could look it up later.
It's a mind. I think it's called Mind Games or something about the mind. It's a bunch of experiments, or it's a bunch of, maybe they take these experiments or the truths about how our mind works, how our memory and our vision and our kind of logic and processing. And they did these exercises with a whole bunch of volunteers, and I think it's 8 or 10 episodes. And it's really fascinating to see how malleable our memory is. That was one of the big takeaways. And maybe several of the episodes, they had this. They were using going to court as being on the jury, or kind of saying, yeah, I was an eyewitness to this thing, and showing how dynamic or non-static our memory is.
There's been studies on that too.
Yeah. And so they're taking some of those studies and they're just illustrating it with these folks, and they're like, no. And then they do this thing. So in one of the episodes, I think there were 20 or 25 of these folks in the kind of this episode. And they didn't know this was staged. But they're out in some, I don't know, sidewalk or park or something in New York City, I think it was.
New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. Paste pecani sauce.
Sorry.
It's made here in Texas or something.
I don't know.
Arizona, New Mexico, somewhere where salsa ought to be made. So they're standing around, and these folks run up. They're muggers, and they run up and kind of jostle some of the folks and snag somebody's purse or something. And it was somebody else. That's right. It wasn't somebody in the group. The group saw this whole thing happen right in front of them. And what they didn't know was that the folks doing the study had put all this on, that these were actors. And the victim was an actor. The perp or two were actors. And there was this bystander observer who was an actor. And so all this went down. And then they did like a mock trial of some sort where they sat down with various, I don't know, I guess there were some attorneys, and there was a kind of a prosecutor person, and there was, and they kind of were acting like they were getting interviewed for the jury, and they went through this whole thing, and they planted in the jury a person who intentionally claimed different things that they saw, or planted not in the jury, but in the witness kind of group. And the whole group of witnesses, and they were all there, all these 20 folks saw the whole thing. And their story started to change and morph. The color of the guy's jacket, what he said, who did what, how it all went down. And they ended up like completely, they went and were sworn in, and they said, I swear on the Bible that I saw this and that and the other. And they literally did see it, right? But as as this thing morphed along, you're watching it going, oh my gosh. And the whole thing changed. And then they played the video back, and the fundamentals were all wrong. Color of the jacket, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, or if it's an old lady or a young lady. The victim thing changed. I don't remember all the details. Yeah. Here I am illustrating my own point that I don't remember half of it. But the point is, we get really, really used to things based on how the people around us feel, and our own feelings. My daughter was telling me about a study where something about journaling, where your memory of a situation changes, and you'll remember it a certain way, and then you go to read your journal from 10 years ago or whatever, 20 years ago, and you'll say to yourself, well, I must have written it down wrong. And it's like, no, you dummy, you wrote it down. What's changed is how you see it. And that's an example of adaptability. That's an example of us just seeking to find the path of least resistance, or the path of lowest common denominator. And often as a visionary, bringing this back to business, like if you're trying to say, man, I want to take this business somewhere, or hey, as a leadership team, we're trying to do this thing with the business, that quote vision ends up getting stuffed into this box of normalcy, and there's a little quote from my blog, vision becomes subservient to the box of normalcy, getting compressed and distorted as we shove it into the confines of how things have always been around here. So we take these walls of how things have always been, and we just kind of rearrange the furniture inside the walls and go, there's our new vision. And it's like, no, what do you say we get outside the walls of normalcy? And perhaps tear them down. Perhaps not. Perhaps we remodel. Perhaps we move, quote unquote. But as a visionary, you've got to realize that change is really destructive. Well, disruptive.
Yeah.
It is destructive depending on the angle you look at it. So if you're looking at it from the person on which this vision is being foisted, they may feel like it's destructive, but they're not seeing what better looks like. And you got to be able to, as a visionary, you got to do a great job of saying, I know that this is going to freak you out right now. However, we're going to establish a new normal, and the new normal is going to look like this. Here's how it's going to be better for you. Here's how it's going to be better for all involved. Here's how it's a win for everybody. Here's why you should get up out of this normal place that you've adapted to, and kind of, freewheel to that next place where you can settle down, and that next place is going to be much better, and we'll build a life in that next place, and you can adapt there.
But no visionaries do that.
No, that's right. They're really
okay,
bad
that's
at
a
it.
little bad statement.
Well, I think generally you're right, and that's why I'm writing the book.
If they did that, wouldn't freak people out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and whether we should or shouldn't like our current status, place, we lose sight of that. We just get used to it. Like when you first walk into a place, well, this sucks, or that's awesome, or whatever. But we lose our ability to measure things with our memory and our mind. We have a hard time. We are very, very subjective people. As a being, we're subjective. We like to think that we're objective, but we're not. We're very, very malleable in how we see things. Now, that's a beautiful thing. It can be very beautiful, but it also can be very destructive. And that's the whole point of this, is to kind of poke at the visionary and get them to go, oh, I've been doing it all wrong. And like, yeah.
There's an element of trust there too.
Mm-hmm.
A visionary can't bring somebody along to this new place without building some trust with their people.
Right. That's right. As you're really, if you want to be a victim, sign up for whatever visionary comes along, and they'll gladly hijack all that you let them. And some will, without knowing that they're hijacking.
Oh.
Often, visionaries, you see this a lot in faith-based communities. You see this in activist communities. Folks will kind of like carte blanche give other folks access to themselves. And neither party really understands how much is at stake. Mm-hmm. I've seen good folks kind of assume that their leaders had their best interest in mind, while watching the leaders go, they're just coming along. They've got their own stuff they're figuring out. They're responsible for their own things, and the other folks are like, no, our leader's taking care of all this, and the leader's going, no, I never said I would. There's all these assumptions.
I was just going to say that.
Both sides of
lots of them.
And that happens in all kinds of organizations, and that's the whole point of this here, is to poke at the visionary and get them to go, oh, there's a lot more going on here than I realized. And money's easy to just go, well, let's just blah, blah, blah with money. And so it's kind of, again, it's a lower common denominator where it's easy to measure, easy to point at, and it kind of sucks, but all right, so what? Let's just move on. And so being a so-so visionary is, even then, we adapt to just kind of being semi-good. The whole kind of part of my practice here at Lodestone is to get visionaries to be better, to do a better job, to do their work far more professionally, with far more mastery, far more of the good stuff. And when they do, then good folks end up at good destinations for good reasons, in good time, And so I think some of the reason they don't is our visionaries just don't know how to do it. So that is a little talk about adaptability, the two-edged sword. Just a little quick down and dirty podcast episode.
That's good. And I'll post a link to the blog post so as we get that up on the website.
Yep. And we're calling the blog post, I think, at this point, we're calling it Adaptability or Adapt or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But I'll have a link in the show notes when we get that posted. So.
Yeah. Yep. So we had about 11 songs we could have chosen from for.
We went around on that for a little bit.
Yeah. But we got old David Bowie. So.
Oh, do you want to hear some of that again?
Yep. Let's take that on out.
Kind of like this a little bit. And
so those of you out there listening, and we know who you are. No, actually, we don't.
We don't, actually.
I don't think we do. The tens of thousands of you can get a hold of us however you please. You know how to do it. Love to hear back from you. And we will be seeing you in the next episode, 042.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, keep
What's that episode going to be on?
I don't know.
They tee it up.
I have 5 things teed up, and I don't know which one I'll pick. But
you can just make something up right now.
Yeah, I could. But see, when I do, then I change my mind.
Changes.
Yes.
I do like the chorus of this song. It's fun. This part's a little strange.
What year is this song? 70 something?
I think so, yeah.
71. 71? Jeez. Well, okay, there we go. 041's in the can. We'll see you on 042.
See ya.